Hey, it's Ryan with SMB Filters. Today we're going to be installing our 81 1003 body mounts on this 2016 F350 Super Duty. These are going to cover all the crew cab trucks, 08 through 16. Our 81 1002s are going to cover all of the regular cabs and extended cabs for 08 to 16. But this video is going to cover the 1002 and the 1003 applications together. So all we're going to need to do this install is a torque wrench that goes up to 76 foot-pounds, as well as some extensions and a 15mm socket, as well as the ratchet. I'll get the kit opened right here. It's going to come with everything you need to do the install. On top, you're going to get your sticker and your install instructions. Inside, you're going to get 8 mounts for the 1003. The difference for the 1002 is you're going to get 6 mounts, as well as all new OEM Ford bolts to reuse, so you don't have to reuse your stock ones. So let's get started. So you'll notice the truck's lifted here. You won't need to lift the truck to do this install. You need either a floor jack or a 2-post lift to lift the cab up a little bit to swap the mounts out. I've just got it lifted today, so it's easier to film me removing the bolts from the mounts. So we're gonna start in the rear of the truck here on the driver's side. There's gonna be 4 mounts running down the driver's side frame rail, 4 on the passenger side. And we'll show you each individual location. We're gonna use a 15mm socket and make sure you do not use an impact. If the bolt's pretty tight, you can apply some heat to the bolt to help break the Loctite loose. This one just broke free right there. And take them all the way out by hand, because if you use a impact, it will break that cage nut inside the cab. Now we're gonna do the second from the rear. I've already cracked it loose, but just using the breaker bar by hand. And just work it all the way out. We're at the front of the cab now. We're gonna break loose the second from last on the driver's side. Now we're at the front of the truck, and we're gonna break loose the last driver's side mount. And there it goes. And they'll pop a little bit and stuff, just keep going slow and by hand, and they should come out. And all of them on the passenger side are gonna be just a mirror image. So once I get this one out, we're gonna lower the truck down. I'll show you how to separate the lowers from the uppers, and then we will go ahead and get the cab lifted. And on this particular truck, we spun a cage nut on the rear driver's side, so I'll show you how to access that as well and get a wrench on it from the back. So we've removed our 4 bolts from the driver and passenger side. Now we're gonna go ahead and drop the truck down. Like I said earlier, you won't be doing this on a lift likely. There's really no reason to. We just did it so you can see the mount positions better. And I'll have Aaron run through all of the mount positions with me one more time here. So there's one right here, one underneath the back passenger door, one underneath the driver's footwell, as well as the core support mount. And if you have a regular cab or extended cab, it's just gonna be the back position doesn't exist. All right, let's get the truck down. As I discussed earlier, I spun the cage nut on this rear driver's side mount. The process is the same for the passenger side. We're just gonna flip the rear seat forward with the latch right here. With that folded all the way down, we're gonna remove the jack, which is just the handle for the lug wrench. So you'll unthread, and we'll point the camera back here in a second, but I'll get it unthreaded first. There's just like a little wing nut. Pop that off. Once the wing nut's off, you'll just remove the whole lug wrench pouch, and I'll show you what that looks like right now. With the lug wrench pouch out, you can get this black plastic cap off, and if we point the camera back there, you'll be able to see the top of that body mount bolt as well as the cage nut without removing any interior. With a 22mm socket and a ratchet hooked up to it, I'm just gonna set this in there and feel when it gets on top of the cage nut. Now I'm gonna have Aaron, our camera guy, hold that while I go underneath and finish loosening that body mount bolt. So we went over what to do if you spin the rear cage nut, the rearmost. If you spin the second from the rear, you'll need to take the driver's seat out, and it's gonna be right underneath the carpet under the driver's seat. If you spin this location, you'll just be able to pull the kick panel and then peel the carpet back. It's not a lot of work. And then all the way front in the core support, you have 2 options here. If you remove the headlight, there's a little cutout right in front of the mount, and you can get a wrench on the back side of that. Or if you don't want to remove the headlight, you can cut a wrench in half, sneak it in. And the other option is to just go through the core support. This truck has carpet in the fender here, but you can just cut a hole in the core support right there to get to the back side of that cage nut. That one's the most difficult, so be extremely careful removing those bolts so you don't spin those cage nuts. We've got all the bolts out now, so I'm going to show you how to separate the lower half mounts from the upper halves. With all the bolts removed from the mounts, these mounts are going to be pressed together. This truck's pretty clean, not much rust, so I should be able to just use a pry bar under here and it's going to pop right apart. So that one's free. If the truck's been up north or has a bunch of rust, you might have to cut the mounts apart. You can see a little bit in here, but as this gets rustier, it seizes together with the upper. And so we recommend just either using a Sawzall or something and cutting this mount in half if they're seized together and you can't pry them apart. And now I'm going to go ahead and continue and pry the rest of the lowers off of the uppers, and then we'll start getting the cab in the air and swapping the mounts out. So we removed the SMB mount from the box, and it's going to come like this. Now that we've got the stock mounts taken out right here, all we're going to do is separate them at this red card. The red card says everything, above here goes above the frame tab. So we're going to leave this out for when we put the bolts in and lower the truck back down. We're going to get 4 of these mounts from the red silicone shim up, and we're going to set these on top of the frame tabs and lower the driver's side back down. So we've removed the back 3 mounts. I'm going to show you where it's more visible up here on the front. We're just going to pull it up and out of there, and that's all it takes. Now we're going to get the SMB new ones installed. Now that we've got all of the upper mounts in, it's time to install the lowers and start getting the bolts in. So the SMB kit comes with 8 identical bolts for the crew cab trucks and 6 identical bolts for the regular cab and extended cab trucks. The bolts you took out varied in length a little bit. We were able to match the compressed height of both the foam and the rubber mounts that were originally used on this truck. So what that means is we didn't need to use different length bolts. So these might seem a little shorter than the ones you took out, and that's correct because the mount actually has a shorter uncompressed height, but the same compressed height with the same great ride as the rubber and the foam mounts. So in case you can't get these started, make sure the truck's sitting all the way down on the mounts, and you should have no issues getting these to thread in. So I've got it completely lowered down. I've verified my cab lines look good in terms of left to right. It didn't shift at all when I lifted each side at a time. The bumper alignment looks pretty good. So I'm going to take everything below the red tab here, pull the red tab off, take a bolt, and we're going to go do the front driver's side first. Just coming from the bottom here, we're just going to get this slid right in and started by hand. I'm going to start all of them by hand, and then I'm going to come back through and torque them all to 76 foot-pounds. So now that we've got them all in hand tight, I'm going to start going around and torquing each mount down to 76 foot-pounds. Every location's the same torque spec. So I'm going to start at the front here. It's the easiest to see for y'all. If you have any questions during the install, give us a call anytime at 909-947-0015. Thank you.